Let's explore now a bit of history of this method, radionics, which for more than a century has been proven to be a very useful method of action at a distance, action upon the inner and outer environments of human beings. Distance, as we perceive, distance with a set of our senses, which is interacting with a perceived environment that's based on electromagnetic frequencies. As such, radionics is one of the many useful methods known to us, a thing that many of the gurus of the traditional radionics do not exactly like to admit. This method has been established first more than a century ago by a physician with the name of Abrams. His discovery was one of the many coincidental discoveries, and he interpreted it his way based on knowledge available during his times. These assumptions and resulting technologies eventually led to radionic methods as they are used in our days. These mappings, as he established them, may be considered wrong according to our more advanced knowledge, and yet, to him, they explained very well what happened, and they led to new useful methods of interacting with the environment. I claim to have developed a better and more useful mapping of what we call radionics, more befitting our times, and at the same time I'm well aware that this, my mapping of what we call radionics, is just one of the many potential useful mappings. I described usefulness before, and for the sake of progress, this, my theory, hopefully will become obsolete in due time. The sooner the better. Just the same way as Abrams' theories and the many other theories on mappings which have been formulated by people after Abrams became obsolete. And again, my new approach became necessary because of the assumptions and attempts to explain radionics and why it works. The older ones' attempts became antiquated and pretty much useless, plain and simple, especially in the light of my invention of the G generator and a resulting better understanding of the common functional principles of the methods of life energy based action at a distance as we know them. It includes many of them, not just radionics. And most of the theories of radionics never led to the new development in recent times. Some of them were quite neat as far as being in tune with some pop scientific views and how the universe is supposed to be structured and so on. And these approaches simply have proven to be insufficient, which means they held back a lot of potential of the radionics approach. They actually blocked the evolution of new technologies. And there was hardly ever any mention how radionics related to other action at a distance. My new approach takes care of this. And I prefer the approach talking about abstractions made permanent. As far as the effect itself, I mean, for the person using the device, the theory leading to the technology is pretty much irrelevant, and already traditional radionics had the advantage of enormous flexibility, which, with the new approach of power radionics, could be increased significantly, of course. Talking about radionic frequencies, let's start now with Abrams. Abrams may have had the wrong assumptions, but based on such assumptions, which in our days seem wrong, he developed a new approach to actions at a distance. Edward de Bono, in his book about lateral thinking, says that sometimes wrong assumptions can lead to new technologies. A good example is Marconi, who succeeded as a first with a radio wave connection across the Atlantic because he followed his wrong assumption that radio waves follow the curvature of the Earth. Had the top scientists of his time known about straight propagation of radio waves and found out about Marconi's experiments, they may have tried to stop any financial support for such idiocies. Likely they would have succeeded in doing so, and it may have taken a few years more till some coincidence may have led to the same results. And then, in some respect, Marconi's assumption actually was correct as far as the wavelengths he used, because those waves are reflected by the stratosphere. Abrams, who was an MD, at first tapped the bellies of his clients to find out about their problems. He heard different sounds on different people and based on different diseases. And since back then everything was frequency, it was a new thing then. Just as in our days there is much talk about quantum and nanotechnology and so on. He had a brilliant idea, or call it crackpotish idea, to use a rheostat, which was a large and relatively simple device to measure a resistance, to define a resistance, similar to a potentiometer in our times. And resistance was used back then to define the wavelengths of radio waves, frequencies, which are to be broadcast, or the same rheostat was used when you wanted to tune into specific wavelengths which are broadcast from somewhere else.